All right, talk to me first of all. How'd you get the idea for this book? This is pretty cool.
Well, it's something that's been building over the years, but especially this last year, just the push of aggressive socialism, which we know is un-American. It's antithetical to the founding, but do we even know what we're fighting for? And it was a book I wanted to write to really explain. Here's what the founders envisioned. Here's where their inspirations came from. Here's how they constructed the machinery of the republic. Here's how we've drifted from it. And here's how we get back to it, and really make it in such a way that was more of a primer that really explained to people and gave them a really good overview of it all, so we actually understood what we're fighting for. But that was a great introduction. I mean, it really did. In the first chapter, I lay out, progressives versus the founders. The founders were optimistic realists. They were very realistic about human nature, but optimistic they could create a government that would be stewards of our natural rights, where progressives were utopian statists. They believed that they could build a state to advance human progress, but were deeply naive about imperfect human nature, which our founders really truly believe should never have consolidated power. But if you really think about where the last 3 years, what everything that's been going on in Washington, D.C., it's really because progressives dropped this administrative state inside of our constitutional republic, and it comes down to one thing: who decides? And in our constitutional republic, it's the duly elected president that makes the decision, not these unelected bureaucrats that fill a massive leviathan of an administrative state. I point out in the first chapter, there's over 430 departments, agencies, and sub-agencies in D.C. filled with millions of career employees. This was never what our founders envisioned. So Donald Trump says he wants to drain the swamp. The foundation of the swamp is the administrative state. You only drain the swamp if you break apart the state.
Right. So, and I find that fascinating because not a lot of people are talking about it, and you are absolutely 100% right about this. So take us a little bit back in history, because as you said, this is not what the founders envisioned our executive branch to look like. They didn't envision it to be an administrative state. This was an invention of progressive politicians throughout the last century, actually, the last 100 years. So take us back to where we first got off track, because if we don't understand where the system got broken, then we can't understand how to fix it.
Well, you really start to look back, and I allude to Woodrow Wilson. Obviously, you want to go back to the 1880s and start reading some of The Study of Administration. And you start to see this mindset that developed both inside the Republican and the Democrat Party, that they wanted a massive bureaucracy, that they felt that there should be a consolidation of power. This diffusion of power, the separation of powers, well, that hindered their advancement of human progress. And so you really look at the late 19th, early 20th century, and I've made this point on TV. You can draw a direct line, I think, between Woodrow Wilson and Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, thinking they're the ones, these unelected bureaucrats should decide. Again, that's not what the founders intended. In a constitutional republic, it's we the people. Power flows from the people to our elected officials, who are to be the stewards of political power and of the monies entrusted to them, not unelected bureaucrats. And that's where the real friction came in. When Donald Trump was elected, he came to D.C. and said, I am the duly elected president of the United States by the will of the people, by the means laid out by the Constitution. And these administrative state actors said, we don't think so. We think we're the ones that decide. That's what this has all been about. And so I really explained in the last chapter, if Donald Trump really wants to be successful, if he wants to really reorganize government, he's going to have to figure out how to shut down some of these departments, migrate these 800,000 non-essential federal government employees out. If he's able to do that, at least start that trend, I think he'll be one of the greatest presidents we've ever seen, and actually put us on the path to restoring our republic.